Welcome to the vlog. It's the most beautiful day today. Clouds are out, not too hot. Almost want to take the long way home. So in my last vlog I talked a little bit about my training program, but it mostly consists of training zones, right? So what training zones am I using? Am I using power? Am I using heart rate? Well, I started off actually as a runner. That was kind of where I did most of my fitness, was like trail running. So I would use heart rate, and I knew, okay, if I was gonna go for like a long run, maybe 10 plus miles, I had to keep my heart rate at a certain pace. So I kind of got used to using heart rate, and then when I transferred over to the bike, you know, I kind of kept the same thing. Just I'm pretty good at judging my heart rate. I pretty much know what I can hold for an hour, half hour kind of thing. So I kind of split my my zones into 5 zones. So 5 is my favorite number. I researched a lot of different, you know, theories. Some people do 7 zones, 4, 5, 6, whatever. I just chose 5. For me, it's just a little bit easier to break down the zones. So basically what I do is based on your max heart rate. So let's assume you've got, you know, a 200 beats per minute max heart rate. And then my zone 1 is anything 60% of that or lower. And then basically every zone above that is 10%. So zone 2 is 70%, zone 3 is 80%, zone 4 is 90%, and then at 100% that's, you know, zone 5, so that's basically sprinting. And that, I mean, when I was running, I used that, and it actually worked really well for me. I was able to gauge my efforts. So when I went onto the bike, it kind of made the perfect sense. If I'm going to go on a long endurance ride, keep it zone 3 or lower. So I've been really happy with that. So why don't I have a power meter then, right? Why am I choosing to use heart rate? Well, the simple fact is it's just too expensive. So if you need some sort of computer, cycle computer, right? So the Garmin ones are $200–300 and upwards. And then you've got your choice of power meters. I think the cheapest ones out there are about $300. But then once you get into even the stages, it's kind of one of the cheaper ones. It's still $700–800. So you're talking $1,000 out of pocket. Well, the bike I purchased is just barely over $1,000. So it's kind of hard to make that jump right now when I just purchased a bike at a little over $1,000 to be spending another $1,000 on a little computer and kind of a power meter. I just don't have that kind of money right now. And I don't want to call them skeptics, but there are a lot of people who don't like to use your heart rate for training zones because they say your heart rate is too dependent upon your condition. Well, you know, if you've had a bad sleep or you're just having a bad day. Well, I would kind of say the same thing about a power meter. If you don't get a good night's sleep, you know, your FTP, which is what all your training zones are based on for power, is going to be lower. So, I mean, there's pluses and minuses to both options, but in the end, if you're in a race and you're having a bad day and you're thinking you can keep an endurance pace at zone 4, right, and you've not had a lot of sleep, that zone 4 is probably closer to a zone 4.5 to 5, right? So you're going to be putting out a much higher effort than what you think you are trying to match those same numbers. So I don't doubt that a power meter is useful. The one thing I like about the power meters, you know, eventually I wish I would like one, but it's the instant data you get. So when you put power to the pedals, you're against getting that instant data point, right? Whereas a heart rate, that's kind of one of the biggest flaws is, you know, your heart rate is going to take a good 10 to 15 to 20 seconds to stabilize once you do an effort. That's kind of, I think that's probably one of the better benefits about the power meters, is that when you go and actually start to analyze your rides, analyze your routes, your sprinting and stuff like that, I think having the much more refined data, I think would be really nice to have. Just right now I use just a Garmin watch and a heart rate monitor strap, and I got it as a gift, but I think you can buy heart rate monitors that are a decent quality for around $100. I think this one was about $200 or $300. So they're much more affordable, and then if you end up falling or crashing and have to replace something, it's just a lot easier. This watch is like 5 years old and not one problem with it, so I've been really happy with the quality of it. So basically, for all this rambling, what I'm trying to point out is, don't let your equipment limit your perceived success on the bike, right? So you don't need that carbon fiber bike, you don't need that cast helmet, you don't need that, fancy power meter to go out and do some really hard training, right? Find a hill, do some repeats, right? You don't need any equipment for that, just go out and do the hard work. And then, as you grow, you will probably, outgrow your bike. You might outgrow some of your equipment. If you're going on these longer rides, you're gonna need some really nice clothing, right? So you will eventually grow out of your equipment, but that doesn't mean it's necessary, right? So just go out there, give it a hard effort, make some gains, and most of all, enjoy the ride. Hopefully you haven't spent too much time on the couch today. If you have, get out and ride. Be safe. If you're out on a training ride and swallow a bug, does that mean you're not vegetarian anymore?